World War II was a defining moment in human history. It shaped the world we live in today. The United States played a crucial role in this global conflict. At first, America tried to stay out of the war, but events would soon change that stance. The nation's journey from neutrality to becoming a key player is a fascinating story. The war began in Europe in 1939. At that time, America was still recovering from the Great Depression. Many Americans didn't want to get involved in another foreign war. They remembered the horrors of World War I. But as the conflict grew, it became harder for the U.S. to stay neutral. The country slowly began to support its allies. Pearl Harbor changed everything. The surprise attack by Japan in 1941 shocked the nation. It pushed America fully into the war. From that moment on, the United States became a major force in the Allied effort. American troops fought in Europe, Africa, and the Pacific. At home, the entire country mobilized to support the war effort. By the end of the war in 1945, America had emerged as a superpower. Its military might, industrial strength, and technological advances had helped turn the tide. The war changed America forever. It reshaped society, politics, and the economy. Understanding this period helps us understand modern America. It shows how the nation stepped onto the world stage as a global leader. The roots of World War II can be traced back to the aftermath of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, which ended the First World War, left many nations bitter and resentful. Germany, in particular, felt humiliated by the harsh terms imposed on it. This resentment would later fuel the rise of Nazi Germany under Adolf Hitler. In the years following World War I, the world faced economic turmoil. The Great Depression hit in 1929, causing widespread poverty and unemployment. This economic crisis created fertile ground for extremist ideologies. In Germany, Italy, and Japan, authoritarian regimes came to power. They promised to restore national pride and economic stability. The 1930s saw a series of aggressive moves by these nations. Japan invaded Manchuria in 1931. Italy attacked Ethiopia in 1935. Germany began to rearm and expand its territory, annexing Austria in 1938. The world watched with growing alarm. But many countries, including the United States, were reluctant to get involved. The final spark came in September 1939. Germany invaded Poland, triggering declarations of war from Britain and France. World War II had begun in Europe. The conflict would soon spread to other parts of the world. It would become the deadliest and most destructive war in human history. The United States, though not yet directly involved, would soon be drawn into this global struggle. In the early years of World War II, the United States maintained a policy of isolationism. This wasn't a new stance. After World War I, many Americans felt that getting involved in European affairs had been a mistake. They wanted to focus on domestic issues. The Great Depression had left deep scars on the nation. Many believed that staying out of foreign conflicts was the best way to protect American interests. Congress passed several neutrality acts in the 1930s. These laws aimed to keep the U.S. out of foreign wars. They prohibited arms sales to nations at war. They also banned American citizens from traveling on ships of countries at war. President Franklin D. Roosevelt, while concerned about the growing threat of Nazi Germany, had to respect these laws and public opinion. However, as the war in Europe intensified, Roosevelt began to shift America's stance. He believed that a Nazi victory would threaten U.S. security. In 1940, he introduced the Lend-Lease program. This allowed America to supply allied nations with war materials. The program was described as lending a garden hose to a neighbor whose house was on fire. It was a way to help without directly entering the war. Despite these moves, most Americans still opposed entering the war directly. Isolationist groups like the America First Committee argued strongly against intervention. They believed that Europe's problems were not America's concern. This debate continued right up until the attack on Pearl Harbor. That event would dramatically change American public opinion and the nation's role in the war. December 7, 1941, is a date that, as President Roosevelt said, will live in infamy. On that Sunday morning, Japanese planes launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The U.S. Pacific Fleet was devastated. Over 2,400 Americans were killed. The attack shocked the nation and changed everything. Before Pearl Harbor, The debate over entering the war was still ongoing. But after the attack, Americans united in their desire to fight. The isolationist movement collapsed overnight. On December 8th, Congress declared war on Japan. Germany and Italy, Japan's allies, declared war on the US a few days later. America was now fully committed to the war on both the Pacific and European fronts. The attack galvanized the American people. Recruitment offices were flooded with volunteers. Factories quickly shifted to war production. The entire nation mobilized for the war effort. Pearl Harbor had awakened a sleeping giant, as Japanese Admiral Yamamoto reportedly warned. Pearl Harbor also changed America's place in the world. It marked the end of American isolationism. The US would emerge from the war as a global superpower, deeply involved in world affairs. The attack showed that America could no longer stay out of global conflicts. It set the stage for America's role as a world leader in the decades to come. Pearl Harbor remains a powerful symbol in American history, reminding us of the cost of unpreparedness and the nation's capacity to unite in times of crisis. Section 5. The Home Front. A Nation Mobilizes. As America entered World War II, the entire nation mobilized for the war effort. This wasn't just a job for soldiers. Every American was called upon to contribute. The government launched massive campaigns to boost production and conserve resources. Factories that once made cars now produced tanks and planes. The scale of this industrial mobilization was unprecedented. Women played a crucial role on the home front. As men left for war, women stepped into jobs traditionally held by men. They worked in factories, shipyards, and offices. The iconic Rosie the Riveter became a symbol of women's contribution to the war effort. This shift had lasting effects on women's roles in society and the workforce. Rationing became a way of life for Americans during the war. The government limited the amount of certain goods people could buy. This included items like sugar, coffee, meat, and gasoline. Families used ration books with stamps to buy these goods. Many people planted victory gardens to grow their own food. These efforts helped ensure that troops overseas had the supplies they needed. The war also brought significant social changes. Millions of Americans moved to find work in war industries. This led to rapid urbanization and the growth of new communities. The need for workers also opened up new opportunities for African Americans and other minorities. While discrimination remained a serious problem, the war laid the groundwork for future civil rights movements. The home front efforts showed the power of a united America, with every citizen contributing to the war effort in their own way. Section 6. Technological Advancements. Winning through Innovation. World War II spurred incredible technological advancements. The United States poured resources into research and development. This led to innovations that not only helped win the war, but also shaped the post-war world. One of the most significant was the development of radar. Radar technology gave Allied forces a crucial advantage in detecting enemy aircraft and ships. Another major breakthrough was in aviation. The war saw rapid improvements in aircraft design and performance. Jet engines were developed, though they came too late to impact the war significantly. The B-29 Superfortress, a long-range bomber, played a crucial role in the Pacific theater. It was used to drop the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Perhaps the most consequential technological development of the war was the atomic bomb. The Manhattan Project, a secret research program, brought together the world's top scientists. They raced to develop nuclear weapons before Nazi Germany could. The success of this project changed the nature of warfare forever. It also set the stage for the nuclear arms race of the Cold War. Other advancements included improvements in medicine, such as the mass production of penicillin. This saved countless lives both during and after the war. Communications technology also advanced rapidly. The development of smaller, more reliable radios improved battlefield coordination. These and many other innovations demonstrated America's scientific and industrial might. They played a crucial role in the Allied victory and set the stage for the technological boom of the post-war years. Section 7. Societal Impact Reshaping American Life. World War II had a profound impact on American society. It touched every aspect of life, from the economy to social structures. The war effort united Americans in a common cause. This sense of national purpose helped heal some of the divisions left by the Great Depression. However, the war also highlighted and sometimes exacerbated existing social issues. The massive mobilization for war changed the American economy. Unemployment, which had plagued the country during the Depression, virtually disappeared. Wages rose, and many families experienced prosperity for the first time in years. This economic boom laid the foundation for the post-war consumer society. It also increased the power of labor unions, which played a crucial role in war production. The war had a significant impact on race relations in America. Over 1 million African Americans served in the armed forces, though in segregated units. The need for workers in defense industries opened up new opportunities for minorities. This led to increased migration from rural areas to cities, particularly for African Americans. While discrimination remained widespread, these changes set the stage for the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s. The role of women in society also changed dramatically during the war. Women entered the workforce in unprecedented numbers, taking on jobs previously considered men's work. After the war, many women were expected to return to traditional roles. However, their wartime experiences had lasting effects on gender expectations and women's rights movements. The war years saw significant shifts in American culture, from music and fashion to social norms. These changes would continue to shape American society long after the war ended. Section 8. Turning the Tide. America's Role in Victory. As the United States fully entered World War II, it brought enormous resources to the Allied cause. American industrial might, manpower, and strategic planning played a crucial role in turning the tide of the war. In Europe, U.S. forces participated in key campaigns that led to the defeat of Nazi Germany. The D-Day invasion of Normandy in June 1944 was a pivotal moment. Thousands of American troops joined their Allied counterparts in the largest seaborne invasion in history. In the Pacific Theater, the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps fought a series of island-hopping campaigns. These battles gradually pushed back Japanese forces. Key victories at Midway, Guadalcanal, and Iwo Jima were hard-fought but crucial. American forces also liberated the Philippines, fulfilling General MacArthur's famous promise, "I shall return." The United States also played a leading role in the strategic bombing campaigns against Germany and Japan. These controversial tactics aimed to destroy enemy industrial capacity and morale. The development of the atomic bomb by the Manhattan Project ultimately led to Japan's surrender. The use of nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki remains one of the most debated decisions of the war. By 1945, the Axis powers were defeated. Germany surrendered in May, and Japan in August, following the atomic bombings. The United States emerged from the war as the world's most powerful nation. Its military had proven its strength, and its economy dominated the global stage. This new status would shape America's role in the post-war world. The country would lead efforts to rebuild Europe and Japan, and to create new international institutions like the United Nations. Section 9. Post-War Reconstruction. Building a New World Order. As World War II came to an end, the United States took a leading role in rebuilding the war-torn world. Unlike after World War I, America remained deeply engaged in international affairs. The country recognized that global stability was crucial for its own security and prosperity. This led to major efforts to rebuild former enemies and strengthen allies. One of the most significant post-war initiatives was the Marshall Plan. This massive economic aid program aimed to rebuild Western Europe. It provided billions of dollars in assistance to European countries. The plan had both humanitarian and strategic goals. It helped restore European economies and also aimed to prevent the spread of communism. The success of the Marshall Plan helped establish strong ties between the U.S. and Western Europe. In Japan, the United States led the occupation and reconstruction efforts. Under General Douglas MacArthur, Japan underwent significant reforms. These included a new constitution, land reform, and the dismantling of large industrial conglomerates. The goal was to transform Japan into a democratic and peaceful nation. This effort was largely successful, and Japan became a key U.S. ally in Asia. The United States also played a crucial role in establishing new international institutions. The United Nations was founded in 1945, with strong U.S. support. It aimed to prevent future wars and promote international cooperation. The World Bank and International Monetary Fund were also created to manage the global economy. These institutions reflected America's new role as a global leader. They aimed to create a stable international order that would prevent another world war. The post-war reconstruction efforts shaped the world for decades to come, establishing patterns of international cooperation and American leadership that persist to this day. Section 10. Long-term consequences, the Cold War and economic boom. The end of World War II marked the beginning of a new era in global politics. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged as the world's two superpowers. Their ideological differences and competition for global influence led to the Cold War. This decades-long standoff would shape international relations for the next half-century. The U.S. adopted a policy of containment to prevent the spread of communism. This led to involvement in conflicts around the world, from Korea to Vietnam. The Cold War had a profound impact on American society. Fear of communism led to the Red Scare and McCarthyism in the 1950s. The space race between the US and Soviet Union spurred massive investments in science and technology. The threat of nuclear war loomed large in the American psyche. Civil defense drills and fallout shelters became part of everyday life. The Cold War influenced everything from popular culture to education policy. At the same time, the United States experienced an unprecedented economic boom. The war had ended the Great Depression and set the stage for decades of growth. The GI Bill provided education and housing benefits to returning veterans. This helped create a large middle class. Suburbanization changed the American landscape. New highways, shopping centers, and television sets transformed daily life. The American dream of homeownership and prosperity seemed within reach for many. However, this prosperity was not equally shared. African Americans, women, and other marginalized groups still faced significant discrimination. The civil rights movement gained momentum in the 1950s and 60s, challenging long-standing injustices. The post-war boom also had environmental consequences. Rapid industrialization and suburban sprawl led to increasing pollution and resource depletion. These issues would come to the forefront in later decades. The long-term consequences of World War II shaped America's role in the world and its domestic society for generations. Section 11. Legacy and Lessons, World War II's Lasting Impact. World War II left an indelible mark on American history and identity. It is often referred to as the Good War in American memory. The generation that fought in the war and supported the war effort at home is revered as the greatest generation. This narrative of national unity and sacrifice continues to shape how Americans view their country's role in the world. The war's impact on American foreign policy has,